Welcome to Barnyard Language, honest talk about running farms and raising families. We are Katie and Arlene, an Iowa sheep farmer and an Ontario dairy farmer, with 6 kids, 2 husbands, and a whole lot of chaos between us.
While this is a podcast for farm families, sometimes our content isn't for the whole family. So kick off your boots, reheat your coffee, and join us for some Barnyard Language.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 4 of Barnyard Language, which is so wild to say that we're actually continuing to do this thing, which we love. We're very excited about the fact that we're still doing it. But Season 4, that seems wild. How does that make you feel, Katie?
It does, and sorry, the cat just tripped over my camera cord again. 4 feels like a real thing. It kind of feels like every time your kids get older and you're like, they're real people now. And then like the next year you say the same thing again.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, but 4, like we're past toddlerhood now, you know, like
Yeah.
things are definitely more real.
Our show's a preschooler.
Or in Canada, they're in kindergarten already.
Our show knows everything now. At 4?
Yeah, kindergarten age.
Yikes. I mean, I guess that's good, you know, education.
I guess I shouldn't say all of Canada. In the province where I live, you would be in kindergarten when you're 4. So yeah, we're a kindergarten age podcast, depending where you live and what your school structure is. Or if you're homeschooled, you're just 4-year-old, whatever.
Gotcha.
So we haven't talked on mic in a few weeks. We took the month of August off. So Katie, something must have happened in August. I'm hoping that second cut got finished.
We did finish second crop. I can confirm that we have finished second crop approximately, I don't know, maybe like a week before we started third crop, but it's done. The house painters are actually almost finished after being here more than a month. I think it's been now.
I'm guessing they're not there every day.
They've been here 5 days a week, like 40 hours a week. Yeah. It's
Oh wow. That is a lot of painting.
It's a lot of house, and it turns out that when you have this much trim work, it has to be done with a brush, which makes it slow. And when it's a big old house that needs a lot of caulk and a lot of repairs before they can even start painting, that makes it even slower. But it looks amazing. They're doing such a good job. I'm very excited to show everyone when it's finished. So, and other than that, kids went back to school, and now I'm just working and farming and cleaning the house because we have company coming.
That's right. So back to school, how does that change your dynamic? I mean, the kids are in daycare all summer in the same town where they go to school. So does your daily routine change much when they go to school, or what's kind of the main difference between school and when they're in daycare?
The biggest change is a tremendous amount of money between full day daycare and after school daycare. And when the kids are in daycare, they're in the same room. So they're together 24 hours a day. When they're in school, they are not they're not in the same class. So that last year, I don't remember it being this big of an impact, but this year things got real tense several times of them just being together, which is totally understandable, but there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about it. So we tried to focus on separating them as much as we could at home. But
sure, yeah. And is anything happening with cows or sheep in the last month, or they're just doing their cow and sheep things?
The sheep seem to just be sheeping. We've started some, early fall calving, late summer calving, very, very late spring calving maybe. Hard to know.
Calves are being born.
Yes, they're very cute.
And how many calves are we talking about?
I think there's supposed to be 10 total. We've had 3 so far. So
right.
We're getting there. Our bull is on vacation at the neighbors with his herd. Apparently there's been a lot of napping going on the bull's part because he was very busy the first few days. But he has apparently settled all those cows and now is just enjoying his vacation.
Right, yeah, so now he gets to chill.
Yep. What's going on at your place, Arlene?
Well, as of the time that we're recording, the kids have not gone back to school yet. We don't go back until after Labor Day, although I guess this episode will come out after Labor Day. So by the time the episode releases, my kids will all be back to school, but not yet. So, like Katie said, My kids don't go to daycare, but they have been together since the end of school. So all together, all the time, 24/7 in my house. So that, for the most part, has been going really well. My boys, despite their age range, actually do get along really well. So they're now 16, 13, 9. So considering the spread of ages, it's shocking how well they do actually get along. But the last few weeks have, things have been getting more tense, as you would say. There's definitely some more bickering and more attitude between them. It's interesting, though, that the youngest, despite the fact that he probably is the one who gets picked on more than the others, never wants to do anything if they're not also doing it. So it makes it challenging for me to try to separate them, because it's like, well, if my brothers aren't doing it, then I don't want to do that too. So we have been spending quite a lot of time swimming, both in our neighbor's pool, and there's lots of local lakes nearby. So either going into town to the town beach or to one of the local lakes to try and seems like if they're in water, the fighting disappears for the most part. So that helps. And what else happened in August? My lower middle, so the 13-year-old, he went to camp for a week this summer. He went to a sleepaway camp. So when the kids were younger, I took them to a family camp where we all went together, me and the kids. My husband would stay home and be a farmer. But we did kind of get the summer camp experience. And my daughter has done a couple sleepaway camps, but none of the boys have been interested up until this point. But he was away for a week, so he had a really good time. Felt weird for him not to be here, so we were glad to get him back too. My in-laws went on a vacation, so that was good for them, and also meant that I got to do calf care for the time that my father-in-law's away. He is our very dedicated calf manager, and so he is in the calf barn every morning and night looking after the babies. So I got most of those shifts. So I mostly like feeding calves, less so bottle calves. I don't have a ton of patience for newborns, but we can usually get them off the bottle and onto a bucket within the first week. So yeah, it's not too bad. And we have a bit of a baby boom going on right now. So I was glad that he came back, because our calf barn fits 20 calves, which for, a big herd doesn't seem like a lot, but for us that is. So we're approaching full capacity. So things are pretty busy in there. And there's been a lot of cow shows. I guess mostly heifer shows. We only bring cows, like milking animals, to one show a year, and that happened in August. But then I think there were also 6 heifer shows in August. So that doesn't mean that I have to do a whole lot, because I'm not actually the show person. But in terms of food prep and making sure chores get done at home, so the people who are really enthusiastic about heifer shows, mostly my daughter and my husband, who acts as trucker and support staff, she manages most of that, but it means that both of them are going to be away for all of those events. So that has been most of what August has been, kind of preparing for heifer shows and then cleaning up after them and then preparing for the next one and all of that kind of stuff. And then the cow show is kind of our, it takes a bigger support crew and more food and planning, and they're away for 3 or 4 days for that one. So that one takes a bit more logistics than just hauling heifers in the morning and then bringing them home in the afternoon. So it doesn't feel like August really a lot happened, but I guess when I look back on it, there were quite a few things.
I know I saw on your social media that you were protesting the show whites, and I'm wondering who you would actually talk to get that changed.
Well, I know that there have been motions at the Holstein Canada convention every year, because Holstein Canada is our kind of national organization, and they set the standards for showmanship, and so dress is part of that. But yeah, maybe there aren't enough dairy moms who go to the national convention to really make a difference. I don't know. Maybe we need to send a contingent to actually stack the vote next time it comes up.
There you go. Or see if you can get a sponsorship from a bleach company or something, maybe.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I do like the look of it. It's just the logistics of both finding white pants that fit all the people who want to show is not always that easy, depending on the year. White pants kind of go in and out of fashion, but finding a boot cut pair of white pants is not always that easy. And then keeping those white pants clean for the show season is a challenge on top of that.
I feel like if you're showing black and white cattle, an argument could be made that black pants and a white shirt would be more effective to see how clean you are, because, the white hair would show up on the black pants and everything else would show up on the white shirt. You'd really get a fuller. Plus, black pants are easier to buy and less horrifying to wear. So
Yeah, that's right. But then what do you do about the Jersey people? Because they're not showing black and white. So yeah, I don't
red, probably. I bet that brown hair would stand
know.
out real nice on a nice solid red background.
Yeah, that's right. And there's definitely only one shade of red pants. They would be surely easy to find.
Yes, I'm sure it would not be horrifying at all.
No, for sure.
Yeah. Maybe we can hear from some of our homeschooling families too about how they deal with having kids together all the time. Maybe they get used to it. Maybe they just have cage matches. Listeners, let us know how we should deal with this next year. Because, yeah.
All right. So we are going to introduce our guests for this week, and we're very excited to have them on. And for all of the guests that are coming up in season 4, we've had a bunch of interviews already. So we've got September actually all recorded for you, and we've got so many people lined up in the next couple of months that we are excited to talk to and excited for you to listen to. So here's our guest for the first episode of season 4.
Yay.
We are very excited to be talking to Greg and BrookeAnna Peterson, who are joining us from Kansas. And Katie, I don't know if you remember back to our very first episode, we talked about who one of our dream guests would be. And at that time, my kids were in a major Peterson Farm Rows obsession. So I had said that getting one of the Peterson Farm Rows on the podcast would be one of my top. So we are here. And so thank you both so much for joining us. So we always ask our guests the same question to start off. And this is an easy way to kind of get to know them and for our listeners to get to know you. So we always ask the question, what are you growing? So for farmers, obviously that can be crops and livestock, but for parents, it can also be families and businesses and all kinds of other stuff. So Greg and BrookeAnna, what are you growing?
We grow wheat, corn, soybeans, sorghum, and then a variety of forages for cattle, essentially cover crops and different feed crops. And then we background about 1,000 head of cattle in our feedlot. And then we have a cow-calf herd of about 110 head or so.
And then we also have 2 beautiful kids. We have a 2.5-year-old and an almost 9-month-old. So we are plenty busy with running after them too. And yeah.
And then BrookeAnna runs the wedding venue here at the farm.
Yeah.
And then we do Airbnb. So that's some of the things she's from a small business standpoint. She's doing some stuff here too, along with the kids.
That is a lot of different things. So when we're talking about family farms, often there's more than just the people that we're talking to. So you were talking about a lot of crops and a lot of cows. So who else is working on the farm with you guys and in those other small business sides too?
Yeah, so it's my dad and my 2 younger brothers and myself who are the main people on the farm. I don't work full time because I'm busy with the YouTube side of things, which I guess we failed to mention in what we were growing. But there's the whole YouTube social media side of things and public speaking, entertainment side of things, and so I manage all that. So I'm kind of split between farming and all of that. But during the busy seasons of farming, I'm definitely 100% on the farm. But Nathan and Kendall, Nathan's kind of more in charge of the cropping side. Kendall's more in charge of the livestock side. And then Dad, he kind of still has his hands in everything. And he's nearing retirement, quote unquote, but he's probably not going to retire. He's just kind of handing off some responsibilities.
We all know that farmers never really retire.
True, yeah. And then our mom helps quite a bit during harvest, and then all the wives help a lot with shuttling people around. Obviously, that's a huge part of it, and then making some meals during harvest and stuff like that.
Sure. And I know that asking someone how many acres they farm is a tricky question, but can you talk about a little bit about scale in terms of crops, like kind of how far your furthest fields are or how much area you're trying to cover in those busiest seasons?
Sure. Yeah. No, we farm about 2,500 acres, and then we do a lot of custom planting and harvesting. So I think our equipment goes over, at least 4,000 acres a year. And then our fields are, 10 years ago, all of our fields would have been within 3 miles of the farm. We were very localized, but now having grown quite a bit over the last 10 years, BrookeAnna and I live about 10 miles from the farm. We're on the west side of our our operation, I guess. And then Kendall and Kaylin live on the homestead. They're on the east side. And so, yeah, about 10 to 12 miles. There's a few outlying fields. If you included those, we'd be about 25 miles apart from one side to the other. But most of it is between our place and the home place.
Sure. Yeah. And as those things expand, that those shuttling jobs start to become all that more important, right? When with equipment that doesn't move all that quickly.
Oh yeah.
So the wedding venue side of things.
Yeah. How many miles did you put in a?
Oh dear.
How many miles did you put in a day in harvest?
Over 50 one time.
Yeah.
That was just getting people and things where they needed to be, right?
Yeah, it seems to always fall on like my days where they're at the farthest field, on one side of kind of the operation, and then the other opposite end of, the far corners. And yeah.
Well, that seems like it's the thing. It's never 100 miles in one shot. It's 100 miles, 2 miles at a time, bringing one screwdriver or, a box of Kleenex or whatever from one place to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, for both of you, Greg, I know we've seen a lot more of your background, but what are your backgrounds in agriculture?
I mean, I grew up a farm kid, was in FFA, and wanted to be a farmer basically my whole life. Also was quite interested in a lot of other things. Was very involved in music as a kid, and different other skill sets, sports. So I didn't know if I wanted to farm all by itself. I kind of wanted to do a variety of things, and then that, of course, I didn't know what that was going to look like, but that led to the YouTube side of things. And I majored in ag communications at K-State, and so it was right down my alley as far as a path of study goes. I went right into what I was studying, but I had no idea that was what I was going to do, was become a YouTuber, social media guy. But things basically took off in a week with the social media. Went from 0 to 100 kind of thing. So it was interesting to figure all that out. But that's basically led to being able to farm as well as do other things.
Yeah. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up, small town, but not on a farm at all. But after I graduated high school, I actually went to college in Montana for equine science. And that was kind of when Greg and I had started dating. And it ended up being just a better move for us as we were preparing to get married and stuff for me to move home to Kansas instead of finishing in Montana. So horses are kind of in our long-term plan, but as we've been more busy with traveling and speaking engagements and stuff, we haven't quite transitioned over to having our own horses here yet.
That makes a lot of sense. And with little kids, there's not a lot of time for extra time with horses.
Exactly.
Nope.
So Greg, like you said, YouTube, I mean, like our kids growing up now can say they want to be YouTube stars, but that's not something that, that we would have known was a career path when we were growing up, for sure. So when you started out in YouTube to now, what has kind of been obviously there'd be lots of steps along the way, but what does that progression look like? Like you said, you blew up pretty quickly at the beginning, but then how did you build that into something that can, supplement a farm income and allow you to stay on the farm and be able to do something that you really enjoy at the same time?
I remember watching like my first YouTube video in high school, probably in 2007 or 2008. And then it was 2012 when our first video came out. So, I mean, YouTube wasn't very old, and things have changed a lot since then. YouTube wasn't paying back in 2012. So that whole first year or so, we didn't make, a dime off of any of it. I guess we had sold some T-shirts and stuff, sold some merchandise. But people back then just kind of assumed that if you blew up in a viral video that you were getting rich or something, and that definitely wasn't the case. But we started figuring out some different ways to, help pay for the time it took to produce videos. And merchandise was definitely one of the first things. And then we started doing speaking engagements and performances, providing entertainment for events pretty early on there, probably 2013, 2014. And then once people figured out that we could do that, it was pretty much all word of mouth from there, and we've just done lots and lots of those in the last 11, 12 years. Even up in Canada, I've been to all 50 states twice and been to most of the Canadian provinces. So really gotten well traveled from getting to speak and perform places. But that's probably been the primary way we've helped fund our time. But then around 2016 or so, sponsorships also became a big thing, to where companies were wanting their logo or their products in videos, and brand awareness, things like that. So that has become another thing that is beneficial there. But yeah, it's been definitely been a journey of, social media has changed a lot since like I went to college essentially for ag communications, and they had a social media class they had just started. And I'm thinking back to that class, and it's like, dude, none of that stuff is relevant anymore. And it probably wasn't relevant within 2 or 3 years, because social media changes so much so quickly.
So I know, how old were you guys when you did your first video?
I was 21, I think. Nathan was 18 and Kendall was 15. So we were, college and high school essentially.
So what was it like kind of growing up on YouTube, going from being young guys to, grown-ups who are still, I don't know, I don't want to say goofy, but I have to say a few thousand views of the tractor stuck video are from my house. And I really appreciate seeing farmers being silly, because I think there's such a stereotype that farmers have to be like real serious and real gruff all the time, or you can't be a real farmer, that you can't, I don't know, dress up in the T-Rex costume, as Arlene's family has also done, and, and still be a real serious person.
Yeah, I think, we like to joke that when we got started, we were kind of a boy band. We were 3 single high school, college boys. And, we were just trying to be cool, kind of thing. And then now, 12 years later, we've all got kids, we've all got families, and so now we're a little bit more of like a dad jokes group. Kind of. It's a little more seasoned, I guess. But I don't miss the boy band stage. I don't want to go back or anything, because it was we had a lot of weird messages those first couple of years from people and from whatever. So I don't miss those days that much.
I bet the logistics of touring as a boy band versus a dad group are a little bit easier, though, when you didn't have the same family commitments or those types of things. I'm sure that's gotten a little more challenging too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was kind of some different steps of, once you got married, it changed a little bit. Once you had your first kid, it changed a little bit. Once you had 2 kids, it changed. And so you kind of, there's different levels, and you kind of adjust as it goes. But yeah, definitely a lot different. And we were all still in school when we first started traveling. So we were skipping class to go perform somewhere, and it's a lot different now.
So I'm sure that your travel is probably like my ideal, because you're not going to big cities, right? I'm guessing you're going to every small town fair and festival and all those, state fairs, those kinds of things. What has been like your, I don't want to say weirdest, but like the most unique kind of like small town event that you've ever performed at?
Most unique. Do you have any?
I'm trying to.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to a lot of county fairs. A lot of. I think I performed. This was in Kansas, and I don't want to get the town wrong. I think it was Cuba, Kansas. I performed at a thing where they've got like they keep a rocking chair rocking for. I don't want to mess this up, because this was a lot of years ago, but it's like a rockathon, I think is what they called it, and they rock a rocking chair for like a world record amount of time or something. I don't remember what it was. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That sounds like a small town thing for sure. So what did your family and then ultimately kind of your small town think when you first started doing videos?
Do you want to answer it?
Oh, I mean,
Do you remember the video going viral?
I do remember. We weren't together when the first video went viral, but because we're from the same kind of small town area, I do remember it going viral, and I remember seeing it pop up on the Yahoo news page, which again is a testament to how long ago that's been already, as it was Yahoo News. And yeah, I remember we were getting ready for school and stuff, and my dad had it on the TV in the kitchen while we all were getting ready before school, and it was.
Yeah, everybody was talking about it. The whole town.
Yeah, it was very cool. I mean, nobody was like, "Oh, that's weird," but everybody was very supportive and excited. But it was crazy to see how quickly the traction it was gaining. It was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like all the local TV news stations were here in town, interviewing people, and it was putting this area in Lindsborg, Kansas on the map, I guess. But what's funny is we kind of became quote unquote famous or celebrity, away from home, but no one ever treated us differently around here. It was like they couldn't take it seriously that we were quote unquote celebrities. They're just like, these are just the Petersons. We've known them their whole lives.
Yeah, I suppose if you've lived there your whole life, it's probably hard to really storm into the gas station with your YouTube award prize, whatever, in your sunglasses and be like, do you know who I am? And they're going to be like, yeah, we know who you are. Hey, we do.
Nobody cares. Yeah.
We have known who you are, dude.
You still have to line up to get a slushie.
Yeah, there it is.
So what was I have to admit that my favorite part of the tractor stuck video is the guy's response. I'm assuming it's your dad when they come to get the chains or whatever to pull the tractor out. Has he ever questioned what the hell you were doing? I mean, beyond the way he is clearly questioning you in that video that you're out intentionally doing things like getting his tractor stuck.
Yeah, that moment right there sums up my dad's whole involvement in our YouTube channels. He's fine with us goofing off and doing whatever we're doing. He doesn't want any part of it. I'm just going to go work. You guys do what you need to do. Because when we first started, we were kind of doing it behind his back a little bit, finding ways to film where he didn't know we were filming and not working thing. But then after the videos blew up and, he knew that it was something we should keep doing, but it still drove him nuts that we would stop working and film or whatever. So I think he just kind of learned to just turn a blind eye to it and be off doing his own thing. And he never really wants to be in the videos that much. He'll do little snippets like that, and he's fine with that. But he's kind of just like, just don't even tell me what you're doing.
I think it's also hard, just being another generation ahead, it's kind of hard to understand the depths of social media as much when you haven't grown up with it. Mm-hmm. We did. Because it's complicated and it's changing all the time anyway. It's hard for us to keep up, let alone anybody who didn't grow up with it familiar as a kid.
I was talking to my kids about it this morning too, that I was going to talk to you guys, and I, of course, call it a radio show. They don't know what a radio is, so that's a bit of a problem because they're 6 and 7. But I was talking to my little boy about it. How long did it take your cows to not freak out about you doing ridiculous crap? Or do they not care as long as they get fed at some point?
Well, yeah, you have to do it when they're hungry for sure. And then, like with that first one, or really any of them, we usually, the first couple takes, they scatter. They run away right away. But if you just stand there and wait for them, they eventually get curious. You just kind of have to be patient. But I don't know, you were talking about that dinosaur costume video. I remember we had to, I think Kendall was in the costume. He had to wait in the pen a long time before the cattle were comfortable with this dinosaur next to him.
So I know I'm going to skip part of a question here, but there's some outtakes at the end of that video, and I have no idea how many times I've watched that video. It's kind of in my bad day rotation with the University of Utah garden gnome invasion video and the Dewey's hay explosion video. How many times did it take to get the hat on that T-Rex? Because the outtakes just kill me. For our listeners, if you haven't seen it, just go watch it now.
Yeah, where he's trying to get the hat on his head. Yeah, I don't remember. That was a long time ago, and honestly, I only filmed a few scenes of that. That was well, most of the videos I'm like directing and filming and bossing my brothers around. That one they actually took initiative and filmed most of it themselves. I think I was filming that scene where he was trying to put his hat on. And I just thought it would be funny because the arms are so short and that he can't reach.
Yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen it, he's wearing one of those inflatable T-Rex costumes, and he's trying to is it just a ball cap or a cowboy hat?
Just a ball cap.
And he's kind of just like tossing it, trying to catch it on his head, and I don't know why it's so funny, but it was.
And then he finally gives up and just runs out of the shed.
So, this is kind of like asking if you have a favorite child, but do you have a favorite video?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, is that they've all been projects and, put a ton of time into them all. And so it's hard to say, I like this one the best. They all kind of have a place, I guess. But I don't know. I think like from a purely enjoying the song standpoint, I like some of the harder rock ones. That's kind of more my style. So like Forage Harvester, Pour Some Silage on Me, those are some of my favorite ones. What about you?
I think I like the Farmer Rock anthem the best. Our daughter's been on a big crop dusters kick.
She has. She can sing most of it.
So I think that would be her favorite right now.
I'm sure they all take, different amounts of time depending what you're trying to do, but typically how much time do you think it actually takes? I mean, no editing would take more time on top of that, but just the filming side of things. How much time would you put into that side of things?
Yeah, so our filming process usually is pretty spread out, where we're not trying that hard to get it done because we're busy with other stuff. But there's been a few videos that were pretty time sensitive, like our Old Town Road parody was blowing up, so we wanted to capitalize on that, and the Gangnam Style parody that was blowing up, so we were trying to capitalize on that. So some of those where we've really rushed to get it done, I think we filmed it all in one day, and I think Pasture Road was done in less than a week from writing the lyrics to finished editing. It was pretty fast, but then some of them have taken months. So yeah, and I mean, people ask me how many hours total, and a lot of it's kind of multitasking. Write a lot of lyrics when I'm in the tractor with auto steer or flying somewhere in an airplane.
Yeah.
So I'm already sitting there anyway, and then editing, same thing. Do a lot of editing on the airplane. I've actually edited video in the tractor multiple times.
Auto steer makes everything better. Podcasts are free to listen to, but they aren't free to create. Katie and I would appreciate your support as we work to build the Barnyard Language community.
Patreon is an easy way for you to make a contribution that goes directly to making the show. As a member of our Patreon community, you get to watch the video version of our weekly updates, complete with questionable hairstyles and clutter. With 3 levels of support, you can choose a tier that works for you.
Keep the podcast going by becoming a patron today at patreon.com/barnyardlanguage. Are you the one who does most of the lyrics or all of the lyrics, Greg?
Most all the lyrics. Nathan and Kendall are more like with concepts. They've helped brainstorm concepts of different songs or filming ideas. Most of the lyrics I've done just kind of. Sometimes they kind of write themselves. Sometimes you have to really work at it. But that's all. That's something I've done since I was a little kid. Is make parodies of songs. You can go back to when I was little. I would change words. Or in high school, I did an English project where I changed "She's My Cherry Pie," that song, to Henry Dave Thoreau, the the writer or whatever he was, philosopher. I don't remember.
That seems like an easy transition,
Yeah. So I've been doing that forever, and I don't know. It's a weird skill set to have, the Weird Al skill set.
Yeah, I was going to say the Weird Al fans among us. Yeah. So, Katie, unless you have any other specific YouTube questions, I was going to transition into some of our parenting chat. Do you have any other burning questions you want to ask before I go ahead?
I don't think so. I think you're good.
Okay. All right. So we're both in agriculture and a parenting podcast. So we often end up talking to people about that transition time from when you weren't a parent to becoming a parent for the first time. And for you guys, it's not all that far off. But I guess, BrookeAnna, I was wanting to start with you. What was that time like for you personally? And then also in your relationship becoming parents for the first time?
Yeah, so our daughter, like I said, she'll be 3 in September. So she was born kind of mid-September, so it was, we were starting to ramp up when farming time shortly after she arrived, and so that was kind of a tough. It was just tough just because the farm is busy at that time, and we knew that was going to be the case. But thankfully, my family is here as well, so between Greg's mom and then my mom, I had a lot of help, in those very early days, while Greg had to be out farming and stuff. But I mean, it's been a big transition, obviously, because it has to be and it should be. But it's also just been a lot of fun just to kind of get to see farming and agriculture from her perspective, especially now as she's becoming even more aware of kind of what's going on. And oh, daddy's going to work now to go farm, and we have to cut the wheat now. And it's just been really neat to watch her really experience all of that for the first time now that she's getting old enough to understand more.
There is something about our kids actually understanding what we do, right? I'm sure that a lot, especially little kids, have no idea what work means for their parents, but being able to physically see what it is your parents do is kind of cool. Sorry, go ahead. You were going to start to talk about your son.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all good. Our son, he was born on the last day of fall harvest this past year. So Greg had taken a load into the elevator and just right into Lindsberg, and then he came back and he was like, "Do I have time to run in another load?" And I was like, "No,
we got to get to the hospital.
We need to go to the hospital." So yeah, that was kind of a fun way to wrap up harvest, was getting to bring our son home instead. But yeah, I mean, it's been harder, just in terms of logistics, adjusting to having two, not just one. Just because, when you have one, you can kind of focus on just the only kid that needs you, and you can both, kind of take turns and get a break and stuff. But obviously when you have more, you got more schedules and more just people who need you. So it's been an adjustment again, but it's all good.
Yeah, when you have one and they have a nap, then it's like, oh, I get a break. But when you have two and one naps, then you're like, why are you still awake?
Exactly.
Greg, what do you reflect on about that time for you as a parent? So BrookeAnna has had your first baby, and you're, still having to go out and be in a tractor when you're kind of feeling pulled in two directions. What do you remember about that time?
Yeah, I remember the mornings, early morning, like holding the newborn and just being like, I don't want to leave the house. Like, I just want to stay here and hold the baby. But I mean, you always feel responsibility during harvest, and any parent knows you just got to make things work. And so it wasn't ideal to after your first baby to be working so many hours, but at least it was fall harvest and not wheat harvest is in June, where it doesn't get dark till almost 10 o'clock. So you're basically working,
days.
15, 16-hour days, whereas fall harvest you're usually done by 6 or 7. I mean, it gets tough because it gets dark.
But you're not starting first thing in the morning.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. So it wasn't too bad. But I just remember, from a time and energy standpoint, things really changed fast. You were spending a lot of time on the baby, and it took a lot of energy. And I've always been a pretty low margin time and energy guy. I fill up my schedule, and I don't have a lot of extra space for anything, and so I had to make space for being a dad, and but I think as long as you keep your priorities in order, then it works itself out.
That's an interesting way of looking at time and energy. Yeah, and you can't predict how much time the baby or child or toddler is going to take, right? Or even their energy level sometimes outpaces yours depending on the time of day. I was going back in some of your YouTube videos and saw one of you guys traveling together when your daughter was young. So, Greg, you were saying, a lot of the touring and those type of public appearances is something that you do. And I know I was even looking at your schedule for we're recording in summertime for the next little while. A lot of those appearances you're doing yourself. Is that something that you try to do as a family or are strategic depending on how far you're going?
Yeah, we used to, when we first started the touring or whatever, we would try to do all three brothers at once, and it was hard because you're basically leaving the farm with no help, and so we transitioned pretty quickly away from that to only two of us would leave. But then Nathan and Kendall were still in school for obviously longer than I was because I was the oldest, and so I started doing a lot of more formal speaking engagements by myself. And I don't know. I developed a love for traveling, or have had a love for traveling. Nathan and Kendall don't necessarily have that. They go do the speaking events because it's a job kind of thing, and they just would more prefer to be home. So the way we do it now is I pretty much go to all of them. Sometimes I go by myself, and then they alternate which one is going to come with me for the two brother events, and then we try to bring the family along.
Yeah, when we first got married, I went to most of them. But then, yeah, we went. My daughter and I came to quite a few after she was born.
Before Brighton turned 2,
Yeah.
They were still coming on a lot of the trips because she could fly for free before she turned 2. And then once she turned 2, it kind of became...
Yeah, that extra seat makes a big difference.
It really makes it cost more. And then once you turn 2, you can't sit still anymore either. So, or even once you turn 1.
Well, and then we had our son too. So, you know.
So, they've still come a few places, but
we're more selective with where we all go rather than, just because obviously traveling with kids takes more time and gear and energy. And, if it's a small town event or just a very quick trip, that it just doesn't make sense for all of us to go along. But if we're able to kind of take some extra time and just enjoy the time and the effort that it took to get all of us there, then
I think Brighton's been to 25 states though as a 2-year-old, so that's pretty good.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, that is impressive. And like you said, the logistics of traveling, the benefit has to outweigh some of the struggle that it took to get there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're not just traveling for fun. You got to have something in there.
So I'm going to add a question in here too. How can we help our farm kids grow into people who are comfortable with things like public speaking and that? Or is there any experience that you had that made it easier for you to transition into this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Like growing up, I hated public speaking. I always would sing in front of people. I had my whole life. I was performing from when I was 3 years old, but I never had any trouble singing really. Well, I guess I got nervous a little bit early on in childhood, but from a speaking standpoint, I remember public speaking in college. I hated it. I hated the class. It made me uncomfortable. Didn't know what I was talking about. And then basically how our speaking engagement started is people were just bringing us in as an appearance, and then they would just ask us questions. And so really that's how we formed our program. Our presentation was answering people's questions before they even asked them. I mean, you get to know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's all public speaking is knowing what you're talking about and then getting experience. Practice makes perfect. So the more experience you have, the more confident you're going to be. The more you know what you're talking about, the better you're going to be. So, I mean, that's what I would tell any young kid is you're not just a good public speaker, snap the finger. You got to work at it. You got to get experience, and you got to know what you're talking about. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're up on a stage trying to talk about something you don't know what you're talking about. So, but it's really all on experience. And once you've been in front of people a certain amount of times, it's probably different for everyone. But once you've gotten that experience, then you're not nervous anymore. I mean, I don't think I would be nervous to step in front of however many people and talk. It goes away. So
I was thinking too, if you're traveling to like state fairs, probably taking the kids is not a winning proposition monetarily, just because I know, you know, what spending at state fairs and things can be like. And I'm sure with two little ones, it's just going to get worse.
yeah, you kind of have to be careful. Like it's it's fun to bring them along, but if you're just super spendy the whole time, then
Yeah.
then you're spending all the money you're making.
Yeah, that's right. And not every small town has a hotel has a pool either. And I know that when traveling with kids, that is almost an essential thing.
Yes.
We definitely try to find a pool for sure. And if not, we just use the bathtub, and it's fine.
Yeah, that's right. So I am from a family of 4, like you are, Greg, and I know that things were really hectic for a few years there. We had, I believe, our count. Well, I know the count. I'm pretty sure it was 13 and 9 years grandchildren, because we were all having kids right around the same time. How many kids total are there between you and your siblings at this point in terms of the cousin count?
They're 8.
We're up to 8.
Yep.
All under what, 4?
Yeah.
8 under 4. So,
Yeah.
and there's probably gonna be, I don't know. Nathan and Riley are expecting in September, and all 4 of us are in the midst of it. So it's they're all going to be the same age, and it's a lot of fun when they all get together. I'll say that.
Yes, yeah. I was thinking back to that time though, and how family gatherings for us at least changed a lot too. I mean, it was what you ate got a lot easier, and had to be able to be cut up quick and thrown in front of people. So how has farm life changed as you guys have all started to have kids and incorporate wives and children into the elements of a family farm?
Well, I think just thinking to this past wheat harvest, I mean, we were trying to have our kids ride with us because, I mean, otherwise you're not seeing them much. And it's great to have them ride along, and it's great to BrookeAnna was dragging the 2 kids with the meals, trying to feed everyone, and it's all good, but it's a lot, and you also have to make sure everyone's being safe, and it's different, wheat harvest with adults versus little kids running around. You got to be really on your game, paying attention, going slow. You just want to be safe, and so it's definitely changed our perspective from a lot of that.
BrookeAnna, do you have a different perspective around the farm, not having grown up in agriculture, do you think? Or have you adjusted fairly well to the realities of farm life?
I feel like I've adjusted pretty well. I, having grown up rural, like I, that was always aware of, kind of the different farming seasons, even if I didn't understand all the ins and outs of everything. And, but I definitely have learned a lot, and, continue to learn. And I enjoy just learning more about what we do, just because, obviously it directly affects me and our family.
Yeah, I'm never more proud of her when we're driving down the road and she's like, "Oh, I see that corn has started tasseling over there." Oh, I've seen it's like any sort of farming comment she makes. It's like, yes, like she would have never said that 6 years ago.
But I mean, I feel like I've adjusted pretty well. Obviously, there have been some growing pains, and having to kind of adjust my expectations of things. Just not having grown up in that, season of harvests, or just different seasons kind of require different things, and time and energy and expectations, and it's just, I think, being willing to kind of adjust plans and kind of go with the flow as much as you can, has been, an important part of marrying into a farm family.
I will say, as someone who grew up on a farm and then ended up marrying a farmer, there was a big difference even for me between being the girlfriend, fiance, wife of a farmer and then being a parent of young children and married to a farmer, because then it was like, oh, that's kind of when the reality really hit, that it was like, I can't
just call him necessarily and have him come. If I'm married to a dairy farmer, so if he's in the middle of milking, then unless it's an emergency, I can't call and have him come home and help me with this, or if he's out in a tractor or whatever. So the reality of farm life, I felt like, does kind of hit different once you have young kids in your house.
So, speaking of young kids in the house, getting into the real nitty-gritty of farm parenting here. If your folks / in-laws are now going to have 9 grandbabies who are all reasonably much the same size, what's the boot organization's situation like? Is there one? Or is there just like so many of our houses where there's just a mountain of boots and you grab 2 that are about the same size and roll with it, or are they all just barefoot all the time?
Oh, our daughter's barefoot a lot of the time.
She wants to be barefoot going into public places, and we have to hold her down and put shoes on her. But
is she at least wearing pants?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she'll wear pants.
She's pretty good about that.
You're ahead of us.
But I mean, we've got. I think we're doing okay so far. But Brighton's really the only one who's putting her own shoes on. Steele's still an infant or a toddler.
He doesn't wear shoes.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll get to that where it's just a free for all and a mess.
Now, when it comes to, I know that I probably lean pretty heavy on my mother-in-law for babysitting services. BrookeAnna, I know you said your family's not too far away either, but is there a ranking and priority in terms of asking the grandparents to babysit, or how do you logistically work out if people want grandparent services?
My mom has been a teacher, so she's been more unavailable during the day.
Or during the winter.
Yeah, or during the winter. And so I've, especially during the day, kind of my first go-to is going to my mother-in-law, and she's very great and very helpful, just because her schedule is a little more flexible since she's not, a teacher, like at a traditional, 9-to-5 job. But I mean, we're very close to both my parents and Greg's parents. So, different times of the day, different days of the week, just kind of, it just varies depending on what everybody has going on. But I'm thankful to have the options for sure.
Do you have to compete with your sister-in-laws and to get access to grandma, or are they pretty good to share services if everyone is looking for help?
Oh, I mean, I think if there's overlap in, kids needing to go to my mother-in-law's, she just has them all over. And
every Thursday morning she has all of them over anyway. So that's everybody's there, and then all the wives go and get coffee or do something fun without the kids.
That is a nice tradition to have.
Yeah, it's been really neat. I think this week was the first week that they all were there, all awake at the same time, including the younger boys too. And I think it was quite busy.
Yeah, 8 under 4 is a crew.
That's basically a childcare center right there.
We've done many gatherings already at like the McDonald's play place, and restaurants that have.
If the whole family's together, people notice. We were at the 4th of July program yesterday, and I'm sure everyone was just like, "Wow, that is a lot of kids all sitting on that blanket."
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that's underrated when you start having kids is knowing where every play place or child-friendly restaurant or park with a decent bathroom is within, a 50-mile radius. So I know this question always kind of seems like it's too early, but I don't think it ever really is. What is the process looking like for what the Peterson family farm will look like in the future? Are you guys going to have like a cage match, or do you think you'll just, roll all those YouTube profits into buying another 1 million acres, or what's your plan?
I wish. No. We've talked about it maybe a little bit. I think at this point, like you said, it's never too early, but at this point it's kind of hard to tell, which of the grandkids will be interested or whatnot. But, it's no different than any other family farming operation. You just have to figure it out. And I do think we're trying to continue to grow to where we can pass it on to multiple members of the next generation, and it can support multiple families and continue to be a multifamily operation. But yeah, I don't think we know necessarily who that's going to be, and we'll just have to try to graciously get along with whatever the results are, and it's probably not going to be easy, but that's how it was transitioning from my parents' generation to us, and the generation before that. So you just have to do the best you can, and try to be flexible, try to be understanding, and meet in the middle.
Yeah, the family element of being in business together is I mean, I know that farmers aren't the only ones who do it, but it does seem like that multi-generational aspect is unique to our industry for sure. And I know the farm that I grew up on was my dad and his two brothers. And then the transition from brothers to cousins was more challenging, I think, than anyone really expected, just because, they'd been raised in different homes and, had common elements of their upbringing, but it was definitely different with cousins than it was with brothers, but lots of families make it work in so many different ways. Right. So yeah, being flexible and open to all those conversations is really important. Have you found that you have changed your approach to documenting your life on social media? I know a lot of it was around the music videos, but you've also kind of gone into documenting farm life too, because obviously people are interested in that side of things. Has that changed since having children, or do you see it changing as they get older?
Yeah, I think since we started way back in 2012, like we just played it by ear, and tried to navigate things one year at a time. So it's hard to know where we'll go from here. It's kind of a tricky thing, kids on social media, or filming your kids for, and it's, we try not to put anything compromising online. Just I don't know. We try to have a little bit of a filter, but at the same time, some people would argue you shouldn't put your kids on there at all, and so it's a tough line to walk, and um, so I mean we'll just continue to play it by ear, um, but I think it's been beneficial just seeing comments of people appreciating a glimpse into a strong farming family, seeing kids raised on the farm. And so as long as those benefits are outweighing the possible risks, it's just like anything. You just kind of have to evaluate.
Yeah, for sure. And people are genuinely interested in your families, right? So it is challenging to figure out how much access you want to grant when people are curious, and most of that curiosity is, probably 99.9% of that curiosity is coming from a good place of just, like feeling like they have a connection to your family and wanting to see what that's like.
So, what is your biggest parenting challenge these days? And knowing that it changes minute to minute a lot of the times, I think.
I think my biggest challenge is I work from home a lot because I do all this other stuff. I work in the office editing video or emailing or booking things, whatever it is, and Brighton will come in and say, "Daddy, I really want you to come play with me. I really want you to come do this." And so it's knowing how often to say, "Sure, like I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and we'll go play." And no, sorry, Daddy's got to work. Because if you say Daddy's got to work too many times, it turns into this. She's going to hate that Daddy works, and so we try to explain to her why Daddy works,
Well, and it's harder too because she knows you're here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whereas
I'm not
if
leaving.
you're gone, then she doesn't ask you.
Yeah, it's almost easier when I'm
Yeah.
leaving the house to go farm. She's like, okay, I understand that. When I'm in the office working, it's confusing. Well, you're right here. Why can't you play with me? And so yeah, just knowing, just time management and knowing when to say yes, when to say no, I think is the hardest for me.
I think, too, as someone who works full time from home, it's easier for kids to understand, like, the farming because they can see you. You leave, you go feed cows, you go drive for the tractor, whatever. Where what my kids know of my work is that I sit in front of the computer all day. And that's about it. And they know that I catch bad guys, but I think they might actually think that I'm in the military, or for a while I think they actually thought I was a ninja of some sort. So, like, it doesn't compute to anything. It really is. It really is. At least they don't seem to think that I just play Xbox all day anymore, which would be cool, but is not what I'm getting paid for. But yeah, I think it's definitely an issue because they don't see you doing something, so it is harder to quantify for them. BrookeAnna, what's your biggest parenting challenge?
Oh, I mean, I stay home with our kids, so mine is also similar, like kind of the time management as well, but not in the same way that Greg's is. It's more just, with two young kids who, obviously need me and aren't self-sufficient really at this point. Like there's just a lot of projects that are started and interrupted, and I feel, I never really feel like my train of thought stays on track. It kind of always feels like it's diverging a million different directions, and just trying to navigate that and still be productive but also be present with them and trying to not hold those in tension. It's just we're just kind of in the thick of that right now, and that's fine because that's just what their ages are.
And what's your favorite thing about raising kids on the farm?
Oh, I mean, I think I kind of touched on it earlier. I just love getting to see it from our daughter's perspective of, of just her learning everything about it for the first time. And I love how much she loves getting to ride in the tractor. And more often than not, yeah, she has her shoes off and hands in the dirt. And she loves to just, just be out in nature, out in the field. And it's just a very special way, to get to raise them, and it's just out in the country and you know
Yeah, I think last growing season, she was picking up a little bit, but this
Yeah.
this year I remember before we planted corn, I was explaining to her we're going to plant corn. You can help me, and then while we were planting, I'd take her back there. We dig up the seeds. She's got a book she reads that talks about seeds, and she's got farm books too, and then the corn sprouts and there's a plant, and then we talk about how it's going to make an ear of corn someday, and then now our corn is making ears of corn. We go out there, we pull the ears of corn off, and just seeing her understand all that, it's like it just like doesn't get any better than that. And then also like one of my favorite parts is coming home just from work, and she's just so happy to see you. And I think that parenting is hard, and I think a lot of people get bogged down in the nitty gritty. But when you experience those moments of like your kids just love you so much and you love your kids so much, and I mean that to me is really fulfilling and one of my favorite parts.
I love that. So, do you have any kind of farm specific parenting advice that you've either learned yourself or that someone gave you that you would want to share with another farming parent?
I think I heard this from someone, and it's kind of it's not a perfect advice, but like 10 years from now, you're not gonna think back and wish you'd have gotten more work done or whatever, but you could definitely think back and I wish I'd spent more time with my kids. So if you're gonna err on the side of whether or not to work or spend time with your kids, don't be afraid to err on the time of spending more time with your kids. You're never gonna regret that. And also don't be too hard on yourself. It's easy to judge yourself harshly for not doing everything right, but as long as you're trying and as long as you're loving your kids, then that's all that matters. You don't have to be perfect.
I think those are really good to remember because I think as farmers, we can often push a little too hard on the working harder side. I mean, we already all work hard, but yeah, at the end of the day, if you can spend a few more minutes with your kids, the to-do list on the farm is never done. But like you said, you're not going to get that time back when they're little. Because I mean, I hate to be that parent, but my kids aren't running at me at the door when I walk in anymore. So
I'm sure that'll change.
yeah, teenagers are fantastic in a lot of ways. I'm not one of those people who begrudges teenagers. I mean, I have some fantastic children, but yeah, they don't run and give me a hug when I walk in.
If they are, they're just asking for money, right?
That's certainly the stage
Yeah.
of parenting I'm most nervous about is teenagers. But you just got to do the best you can.
That's right. And I mean, the thing is, we're growing as parents with them, right? Like, I've never parented teens before, but they've never been teenagers before. So we're all figuring it out as we go. And they're still your kids, even with the hormones. So it'll be fun. You're going to be great.
So we ask all of our guests, if you were going to dominate a category at the county fair, what would it be? And categories can be real or made up to ensure that you win.
I feel like Greg and BrookeAnna have so much more experience with the variety of county fair potential categories than most of our guests.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I don't know the category of county fair. How about music? We could say music. I don't know if that's a real category of a county fair, but
Hey, we allow people to make up their own categories so that you can make sure that you win. So music in terms of performance or impromptu making up of lyrics, or what do you think?
all the above, sure. Yeah.
There you go.
What about you, BrookeAnna?
I suppose mine could be Lord of the Rings. Probably
There you go. Making it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
If there was
nice.
a Lord of the Rings competition at State Fair, she's a big Lord of the Rings fan. We went to New Zealand on our honeymoon and saw Hobbiton and all the Weta Workshop stuff. So.
I think that might actually be the most unanticipated answer we've gotten, Arlene.
Yeah,
I don't know that I would have picked that one. I like it.
It's certainly random, that's for sure.
And we've had a lot of random answers. Yeah. So before we finish the show, we usually go into our cussing and discussing segment. So this can be just kind of a free-for-all, something that you want to rant about or chat about. So as listeners know, you can submit yours on our SpeakPipe or at our email, and those links are in the show notes. Katie, what are you cussing and or discussing this week?
Well, actually, what you guys just brought up about never being done, my, quote unquote, real job is also a job that is never finished, which is good because it's, job security. But adding that to the farm, which is never done, and, working from home and being kind of a hermit, it's hard not to be on my phone too much. And yesterday, I'm cleaning the house, which is also never done, and found a picture one of my kids had drawn of, Daddy and I both on our cell phones, and the guilt of feeling like all they ever hear from us is just a minute, I'll be there in a second, versus also, I just want to get this shit done. I feel like I can't relax because it's always hanging over me, all this 58 million things that need to be done. But also, when you do take a minute, and our kids basically had the best day of their lives yesterday ever, because Daddy took them fishing and we went out for ice cream, and then there was a rainbow and there was fireworks, and and it's just hard to remember that they grow up a lot faster than any of my shit's getting done. So, but also you have to try to get your shit done because that's why your boss pays you, and the cows have to be fed, and it's just a lot. And I think trying to remember that we're all struggling with that, because it's...
The not being done part is challenging for sure, because it's why do it? Like, some of the household stuff for me anyway is why do it? Because it's just going to get dirty again. But then eventually it's okay, I really do have to do it because it's getting gross and we can't live like this. But yeah, then you do the thing and then you just have to watch it get dirty again. So, and same thing on the farm, right? Keep planting that field year after year. I mean, I know we get some money out of it, but it's can it not be done yet?
Yeah, I agree with all that.
So what do you guys have to cuss and discuss today?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to a lot of that. I always feel like I'm just another month from finishing my to-do list, and I never get any closer. And sometimes I have trouble. Sometimes I realize I need to look back and see, okay, this is what I accomplished, or these are the projects I've got done. Look how far I've come, not look how much I have left to do, or look how little I've gotten done on this thing I'm working on. So, it's just kind of having the right perspective.
BrookeAnna, do you have anything you want to vent about today or talk about?
Oh, I mean, coming out of harvest and everything, my sister got married the week before harvest started, so it was just kind of a lot of things going on, and we kind of went from one thing into another, and we knew it was gonna be that way, but it's still, it doesn't make it any easier to just push through it and make it all work and try and enjoy it all in the midst of just being very busy and pretty maxed out in terms of capacity for things. So it's just, trying to pick up the pieces then after things have kind of slowed down now. It's hard to kind of,
Yeah, and what's going to make a difference?
I don't know. Yeah, hone in on where to start. So I've been slowly trying to start, making progress. But yeah, exactly. Like, obviously there's a million things to do and, try and catch up on in addition to just the general maintenance of everything. And then, yeah, when kids are needing snacks and naps and all that good stuff, it's just a lot to manage.
I've been ranting about the lack of rain a lot in the last month or so, and that's what it's so frustrating as a farmer to put in all this work and balance all these things and just do everything in your power to give this crop its best chance to function, and then it's just lacking water. That's all it's lacking, and then it doesn't rain for a whole month. And Brighton the other day was standing up at the window and she goes, "Come on, rain!" Like she's seen her dad look out the window and be like, "Why can't it rain?" And so she was imitating me, and it's like, oh man, that hit.
And she doesn't probably really know why she wants it to rain, but she's heard it enough that
No, she knows. We talk about the corn needs rain, and so after she says, "Oh, rain," then she'll be like, "We need it for the corn." I mean, she gets it. That. She's very perceptive. But
she's also absolutely a mirror of what she's been hearing.
Yeah. She pays attention.
I think that's the worst about the first time you hear your kids swear to you. You can usually tell exactly who they heard it from, and that's a real.
Yeah, they pick up on your negative
everything.
Stuff too.
Everything. They pick up on everything.
Arlene, what do you have to cuss and discuss?
So at the time that we're recording, it's July. I think we'll probably hold off on this episode until the fall, but this is still going to be true in the fall. So yesterday we had our first cow show of the season. If you're a regular listener, my husband and daughter are both all in on showing dairy animals. And so we had our first 4-H show, and we've got several 4-Hers who have animals here at our farm. And so I was just thinking about the fact that farmers are the type of people who work really hard at home, but then will put all the things in place so that the chores get done at home so they can go somewhere else and then work even harder in a new location on a sweltering day. Oh my gosh, it was so hot. And then come home exhausted and then do more work at home. So just, yeah, I love it because they love it, but it would be not my choice of a way to spend kind of a quote unquote day off from the farm is to go and work somewhere else. But I'm glad that they're happy, and I'm happy to support their hobby. But gosh, it's a lot. So everyone is dragging today. That is for sure.
For sure.
Seems like a farmer thing. So Greg and BrookeAnna, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. I think that people know where to find you online, but just remind us in case someone hasn't found you on the internet.
Sure. It's Peterson Farm Bros on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok, and then it's at Pete Farm Bros on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. So you can check us out. We're posting all the time.
Perfect. And be sure to check out their travel schedule too. They might be coming. Greg might be coming to a small town near you. You never know.
Yep, doing quite a few this summer. I don't think we have any up in Canada on the schedule right now, but usually we get to Canada a couple times a year, so should be fun.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to meet both of you and have this conversation today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on Barnyard Language. If you enjoy the show, please support us on Patreon with a donation.
Big thanks go out to our show editor, Krista Paffrath at the Rural Podcast Network.
Please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen and follow the show so you never miss an episode.
If you want to connect with other farming families, join the private Barnyard Language Facebook group.
We are always in search of future guests for the podcast. If you or someone you know would like to chat with us, get in touch.